Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon if it's fifth or sixth period. I wanted to come to you and show you some things that I have seen as I've been grading your tests, mistakes, errors that you're making with graphing. So I'm going to go ahead and just make up some pretend data here. And gosh, let me see. I will talk about maybe the amount of plant fertilizer used in gallons. This is a liquid fertilizer. And I'm going to say number of apples produced. So this is a pretend experiment where fertilizer is put on apple trees in an orchard, and we want to see what how the production is affected by the amount of fertilizer. So let's start off and say that when no fertilizer was produced, that you got 100 apples off of the tree. If a gallon of fertilizer was used over the growing season, then let's say that it was 250. 2 gallons, 430, and 3 gallons, 600, 4 gallons, and let's go back down to 500. Okay, just these are totally made up numbers, everybody. Totally made up numbers. So the first thing we want to do is graphs always should be done with a graphing graph paper, and you need to determine what your dependent variable and your independent variables are. You need to remember, independent variable goes on the x-axis, dependent variable goes on the y-axis. So I have to ask myself this question. If it's math, you know that in math you always have the x and the y-axis, but not necessarily the case when you're in science. So I want to ask myself this question. What is the thing that I'm measuring? And which variable is the one that I manipulate? Okay, so when I'm going to be looking at my crop of apples, what am I going to be counting? I'm going to be counting the number of apples produced. So the thing that you are measuring becomes your dependent variable. And the thing that you manipulate or that you control is the independent variable. And in this case, it would be the number of gallons of plant fertilizer used. So down here, we have to make sure that we label our axis. We have to say that this is plant fertilizer. And we always want to use our units there. And on the side over here, we would say number of apples produced. And if there was a unit like this was tons or bushels, then we would have to make sure that we would make a note of that. Okay. So here we go. In this case, if I use 0, I get 100. So I look at my numbers and it's easy here. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to say, all right, this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. How come I'm skipping in line? Because I don't want everything to be all smushed up in the corner. So I can spread it out a little bit. I'm going to label my axis. The other side, though, 100, 250, 430, 600, 500. Okay, so how do I want to break this up? Well, I have enough room. I can tell here, I can go at increments of 50. So 50, 100, 50, 200, 50, 300, 400, 500, and 600. So I'm going to label that. And I'm kind of running out of room here, so we're just going to pay attention. Now notice, I didn't just put on my graph the 100, the 250, the 430, the 600. If I did that, I would always end up with a perfectly straight line, and I don't want that. I want this to show me the trend over time. Which brings me to my next thing. What kind of graph do we make? Do we make a line graph or a bar graph? Well, because I want to see how one variable influences another variable, how the number of gallons of fertilizer influences the number of apples that I can grow, I need to make a line graph. I want to see a trend over time. That's why this is absolutely not a bar graph. It is a line graph. So my first data point is 0 and 100. So it starts, oops, I'm sorry, I'm still in the erase mode here. So I start off here at 0 and 100. And that's the only reason I have a point that's even on the y-intercept, because I have a 0. My next point is 1 and 250. So that's 51, 50, 250. My next point is at 2 and 430. So I've got 100, 200, 300, 4, and 430. So this would be 450. So I'm going to go in between somewhere there. And I want to go right about there. And this happened to me the other day, 430. 3 and 600. So 3 and 600 is all the way up here. And 4 and 500. 4 and 500 would be back down there. So now, what kind of line do you make? This is not a scatter plot. This is just a connect the dots type of graph. And I don't extend it because I don't have any data for that. If it were a scatter plot, it would be showing a trend. But I absolutely don't extend the data past the line, past the points of data that I have. Now, am I done? I hope you're shaking your heads and saying, no, you're not done, because what have we missed? What have we forgotten? We've forgotten our title. And so you would want your title to be reflective of the data that you have on your data table. So this is number of apples produced versus gallons of fertilizer. So it should be descriptive. And a lot of times, if you have a title given to you on the data table, you can use the very same title on your graph. All right, here's another set of data. I would like to know the, let's see, the number of, let's see, I'm going to say, let me change that. I'm just thinking out of my mouth right now, just letting it fall out. I want to say that the rose color preference, okay, and the I'm making that harder than it needs to be. Let me see. Rose color and number sold. How about that? Make it simpler. So what kind of colors of roses do we have? Yellow. We have lavender. We have white. We have pink. And we have red. And in this one store, they sold 1,000 yellow, 2,600 lavender, 1,500 white, 3,000 pink, and 5,000 red. Okay, again, totally pretend made up numbers. So the color of roses sold at this store and the number that they sold. So again, dependent and independent variables. What did you manipulate? What did you control what you were looking at? Well, that's the rose color. So that becomes your independent variable. What did you count? What did you tally up? That's your dependent variable. So X and Y axis, and of course yours are probably cleaner than mine because I'm drawing on an iPad. And so we have our independent variable down here. So this is the color of the roses. And over here is the number sold. And look at our numbers here. We got 1,000, 26, 15, 3,000, 5,000. So am I just going to put those numbers on my scale? No. I want to have the lowest number being 1,000 and the highest number being 5,000. So let's do this. Let's say that this is 1,000 and 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. And that should be pretty easy, right? To fit them all in. You don't want to have things all jammed together. Now, for the bottom, I've got colors. Does it matter what order I put the colors in? No, not at all. And so, am I going to make a line graph or a bar graph? In this case, I hope you're saying bar graph because we just did a line graph, right? But you should know why you're making a bar graph here. In a bar graph, you're just wanting to compare these to each other, not showing a trend, but you're comparing your independent variables to each other. So I'm just going to say that this is the yellow, lavender, white, pink, and red. Again, I'm spreading them out, okay? Now, another cute thing that you can do when you have a situation like this is you can use color on a graph like this. And so your yellow, and notice I'm making it across the line here, right? Yellow is 1,000. Lavender, pretty lavender color. So there's 1,000, 2,000. So I want to go to 25, 2,600. I want to go up here a little bit higher. Notice my bars are not touching. And that's something a little bit more advanced called a histogram. Next one, white. Oh, this is going to be hard to show. So I'll make sure I outline it in black so that we can see. White is at 1,500. Pink, 3,000, popular color, huh? Pink flowers, pink roses. I think you get the idea, right? And hopefully you're one step ahead of me because you're thinking about what is the last thing that we want to make sure that we put onto our graph. And what is that, everybody? Yeah, the title. So, I went outside the line, sorry, but I'm hurrying. Because I know I've talked to you guys so much on these videos and you've got to be sick of me, huh? So what title? Say color of roses versus numbers sold. Real simple. Okay. So before you do your test retakes, which are going to be next week when you'll be able to do them, I wanted to go over these things that I saw over and over again. You guys did bar graphs when you should have done line graphs, and line graphs when you should have done bar graphs. And you're switching up the dependent and the independent variables. So go back and watch the videos that I put on our lesson plans previously. And if you still have questions, let me know and I'll find something else to give you a hand. Okay? So I'll talk to you later. Bye.